what the teacher then went on to do, although that looked like, I don't know what it looked like to you, it was a language class. The Bulgarian class was a language class. She was teaching English. But she was, in a sense, trying to teach them English by making them do something else, a project. So in that sense, she was a bit like what's called CLIL or CBI, content-based instruction. At the same time, sometimes they were using Bulgarian. But then, in fact, she went on to be a content-based language, because she then went on to teach literature. I haven't described all that because it would take too much time. But she went on then to say, okay, now we're still on Christmas, we've done Christmas cards, we've done all the skills of analysing Christmas cards and analysing society, etc. But now let's move on to literature. And she moved on to Dickens' Christmas Carol, and they compared that, extracts from that, with something that's from their own society and something from Russian society. I think because, it's not very clear about why, but I think because Russian presence in communist countries is so strong that everybody knows that story. Just as I think most English, British people know Christmas Carol. So it's part of the semantics again of Christmas. If I think of Christmas, I think of Christmas carols. It's a book. I've never read it. I'm sure I've never read it. But I know it. I've known it since before I can remember. Because it's always connected with Christmas, it's always on the television, I don't know. I know it. So it's part of my semantic connotations of Christmas. And she was saying, well, part of your semantic connotations of Christmas are your stories. And again, she was doing comparison and contrast, so that they could understand the meaning of Christmas Carol. That it's not just a story by Dickens from the 19th century, it's something which is very present in the songs of Christmas. I think I'm starting running out of time. I'll skip that. I'll skip that as well, because I might come back to that. But what I said I would do at the very end is come back to the question of objectives. That by having objectives as presented in the Common European Framework, and now I'm back to a mixture of the Common European Framework and my own writing, is to say, okay, if you're going to really do this in your language classes, then you also have to have not just language competences as your aim, as your planning, but you also have to have these other skills and competences. The reason I got involved in all of this is because I was a teacher of French and German in secondary school, and I always assumed, like all teachers, that somehow teaching French and German was also developing people's selves, making them more educated, and making them more tolerant or something. And when I got a job in the university and began to do research, my first question as a researcher was, well, I've been assuming that by teaching French I'm somehow making my pupils more tolerant or understanding and so on, but is it true? And my first research, a long time ago now, was to investigate that. And what we found was that although teachers want to do that, as I wanted to do, I still want to do, it was not successful. You couldn't measure any change in this case in children, but learners of any kind, you couldn't measure any change due to language teaching in their understanding and tolerance of, in this case, France. It just was not there. You could measure change in their linguistic competence, but you couldn't measure any change. Now, I'm not saying there was none at all, but there was certainly none measurable. And yet the teachers were hoping. So, to cut a long story short, the answer is, okay, if you really want to be serious, then you've got to have in your teaching aims which are cultural aims, as well as aims which are language aims, or competences, whichever. And so that's, again, it's not worth going through all the details. This is just an example of how you can specify aims